Hello, everyone. Today we will follow a touching story filled with humanity and resilience, the story of a single mother named Tieu Huyen, her 3-year-old daughter Maya, and their loyal disabled dog, Bibi. Huyen's life has been filled with more tears than smiles. She once had a family she thought she could rely on forever, but happiness was fleeting. Her domineering husband, a man obsessed with having a son to carry on the family line, grew increasingly distant upon learning that Huyen had given birth to a daughter. Worse still, her mother-in-law, a narrow-minded, old-fashioned woman, constantly belittled and scorned her for failing to bear a son. Huyen tried her best to endure and to hold the family together. But one stormy day, her cruel mother-in-law heartlessly threw her and her child out of the house, forbidding them from taking anything except a few old clothes and a worn-out bamboo basket. From that day on, Huyen carried baby Maya in her arms and led their disabled little dog, Bibi, as they wandered from place to place, struggling to survive. Every morning, she would sling the tattered basket over her shoulder and walk more than 2 kilometers with Maya to a forest near the foot of the mountain. The damp, slippery trail had long since become familiar to them. Upon arrival, Huyen would gently place Maya in a safe spot under a thick canopy of trees. Maya's innocent eyes already seemed to understand her mother's hardships. She no longer fussed like other children her age. Huyen set the old bamboo basket beside her daughter, softly smoothing the child's tousled hair, whispering, "Maya, sit here and play quietly, okay? Mommy is going to catch some snails so we can sell them at the market tomorrow to buy rice for you to eat." Maya looked at her mother with wide eyes, blinking, then gave a small nod. Though still very young, she had already learned not to trouble her mother while she worked. Huyen smiled, trying to hide her emotions. Hurriedly turning away, Huyen took a deep breath, reminding herself to stay strong. She rolled her sleeves up past her elbows, revealing chapped skin marked with sunspots and cracks from the biting cold and rain. Step by careful step, Huyen tiptoed among the large rocks, lifting smaller stones to search for snails hiding beneath the lush green moss. The plump snails, their shells gleaming dark brown, clung tightly to the rocks as if grasping onto life itself. Each time Huyen picked one up, her eyes sparkled with a glimmer of joy. She gently placed each snail into the worn bamboo basket by her side. The soft clinking sounds as they landed were like tiny cheerful notes echoing in the young mother's heart. Every so often, Huyen glanced toward Maya. From afar, beneath the thick canopy, little Maya sat quietly on an old raincoat. The sight tugged at Huyen's heart, yet also made her smile tenderly. That was her motivation, her reason not to give up. Suddenly, Huyen spotted a wild fig tree growing near the stream. Its branches were heavy with clusters of young green fruit peeking through the wide leaves. She thought, "I'll bring some figs back to sell with the snails, or if they don't sell, we can pickle them. That would still be precious." Rising on tiptoe, she carefully plucked the figs. Each time a fig landed in the basket with a soft thump, it echoed her simple, hopeful heart. When that spot had been picked clean of snails, Huyen didn't stop. She picked up the basket and led Maya deeper into the forest. In the new area, the snails were more plentiful. Fat, round snails clustered beneath mossy stones. Patiently leaning forward, Huyen picked them up one by one. Every snail added to the basket meant one more thread of hope, a fuller meal than yesterday's. In the distance, Maya remained perfectly well behaved. Though only 3, the child seemed uncannily mature. She played quietly with a few dry leaves her mother had gathered earlier, her tiny hands carefully arranging each leaf and twig. Sometimes, Maya would look up at her mother, her clear eyes shining with longing. But she didn't call out or cry. She simply smiled softly whenever her mother turned to look. That look seemed to say silently, "Mommy, I'm being good. Don't worry. Keep picking the snails." Time passed slowly. The once empty basket was now half full of snails and a few wild figs. The gentle clinking of the snails in the basket rang like cheerful music in the quiet forest. Beads of sweat dotted Huyen's forehead despite the cool air. Yet in her heart, a small joy was blooming. Tomorrow at the market, she would be able to buy some rice, maybe even an egg for Maya. That alone was happiness enough. Looking up, the soft late afternoon sunlight filtered through the leaves, bathing the scene in gold. Huyen gently wiped her reddened hands, lifted the basket, and walked toward her daughter. Bending down, she embraced Maya and said softly, "My sweet girl, Mommy's done. Let's go home, okay?" Maya chirped happily, wrapping her little arms around her mother's neck. Her small face nestled against her mother's shoulder. The basket swung from the single mother's shoulder, heavy not just with snails and figs, but with love and hope. On the narrow path home, the faded glow of the sunset stretched across the bare branches of the trees. The last golden rays of the day filtered through the leaves, scattering soft light on the footsteps of mother and child. The small dirt road was still damp from the morning rain. With each step, Huyen's feet sank lightly into the soft mud, leaving behind the imprints of a long, weary day. She carried Maya in her arms. The little girl nestled close to her mother, her tired eyes calm and peaceful. Though her legs ached with exhaustion, Huyen held her child tightly, savoring the warmth of her tiny angel. After walking for a while, Huyen stopped beside a small stream by the roadside. The stream's crystal-clear water flowed gently over the stones, murmuring softly. She set Maya down on a large rock so the child could rest for a moment. Huyen knelt by the stream and carefully emptied the snails from her basket. In the soft light of the fading day, the snails glistened like tiny gems. Her thin, cracked hands picked up each snail and washed it thoroughly in the cool water. One snail after another, Huyen worked patiently and meticulously, as if tending to her own fragile dream. She then reached for the clusters of wild figs, gently plucking them from the basket and rinsing each one in the stream. The plump, green figs gleamed like fresh jade when cleaned. After everything was washed, she took a moment to cleanse her own hands and feet, letting the cool water wash away the dirt and weariness of the long day. With her work done, Huyen gathered everything, carefully placing the snails and figs back into the basket. She slung the bamboo basket over her shoulder once more, took her daughter's tiny hand in hers, and together they continued on their way toward the market. The afternoon light was fading. The familiar sounds of people and vehicles from the market reached their ears, urging their tired feet to move a little faster. When they reached the market gate, Huyen stopped by a small roadside convenience stall she often visited. The shop owner, a middle-aged woman, had bought snails from Huyen many times before. As soon as she spotted the mother, daughter, and little dog approaching from afar, Ms. Lan greeted them warmly. "Huyen, is that you? Did you catch many snails today?" Huyen smiled softly and replied, "Yes, it rained today, so I managed to catch a good amount." She set down her basket and carefully displayed the plump snails in a tray. To her surprise, the snails were quickly bought up as soon as she arrived at the market. That simple joy brought a sting of emotion to her eyes. All the exhaustion from the long day seemed to melt away in that moment. She accepted the money from Ms. Lan and held it tightly to her chest. With a little left over, she quickly bought a few essential items: some rice, an egg, a bit of salt, a small knife for gathering firewood, and a new mat. Dusk had settled. The deep red glow of the setting sun slowly faded behind the distant mountains. The narrow path winding through the forest was now lit only by a few faint beams of light. Huyen held Maya's hand, the bamboo basket now much lighter, and slowly made her way back to their temporary shelter. Each step, though weary from a long day, was warmed by a deep sense of love and hope. Another day had passed. Despite the hardships and mud-stained clothes, her heart was filled with love and optimism. Their shelter was an old pigsty tucked deep in a small forest. It had once been used to raise pigs, but after the livestock were sold off, the place was abandoned, its tile roof rotting, its earthen walls crumbling. Moved by their plight, kind villagers had allowed Huyen and her daughter to stay there. Though makeshift, to Huyen it was a precious roof over their heads, a place where she could hold her child close through stormy nights. Along the path near home, just a short distance from the pigsty, Huyen suddenly noticed a middle-aged man sitting against a tree, clutching his leg with a pained expression. Her heart tightened. Maya's small hand squeezed her mother's, and Bibi watched the stranger warily. Huyen quickly approached and asked gently, "Uncle, are you all right?" The man gasped and grimaced. "I was herding buffalo and tripped on a rock. My leg is badly swollen." Without hesitation, Huyen helped him sit more comfortably, then rushed back to her small shelter. She rummaged through a basket hanging on the wall and retrieved an old jar of medicinal balm. Returning to the man, she carefully applied the balm to the bruised and swollen area, massaging it gently. He winced at first, but gradually his expression eased, It feels much better now. Thank you so much." Not wanting to leave him to struggle home alone, Huyen helped him to his feet. Slowly, she supported him along the narrow path back to the pigsty. Though the space was cramped, she had just bought a new mat at the market that day. She spread it out in the center of the small room and helped him sit down. Huyen hurried inside to fetch a cup of cool water for him. Seeing that he was still wincing from the swelling, she remembered a patch of wild medicinal plants behind the shelter, ones an elderly neighbor had once taught her how to use. She quickly gathered a handful of fresh leaves, sat on the porch, and carefully crushed them to release their healing juices. She then wrapped the crushed leaves in a clean plastic bag and gently tied it around the man's injury. When she had finished, the man looked around the small shelter, his gaze softening with a mix of surprise and sympathy. "You and your daughter are living here in this old pigsty?" Huyen replied softly, "Yes, uncle. We came from far away. After being cast out by my husband's family, we have no land of our own. I'm just grateful the villagers let us stay here." He remained silent for a moment, then looked at Huyen thoughtfully. "My name is Tu," he said quietly. "I have a small piece of land near the forest's edge. It's been unused for years. If you'd like, I can show it to you tomorrow. If it suits you, you can borrow it to build a proper home." At those words, tears welled up in Huyen's eyes. Her voice trembled. I don't know how to thank you, Uncle. I've been dreaming of a stable place so my daughter can have a chance at a better life." Uncle Tu smiled kindly and patted Maya's head. "You and your daughter are good people. Helping others like this, the heavens will surely look kindly upon you. I'll go rest now, but I'll return tomorrow to take you to the land." Huyen walked him to the edge of the path, then led Maya back inside their humble shelter. Though the roof still leaked and the walls were crumbling, a new light of hope now burned bright in Huyen's heart. "Maya, my dear, maybe tomorrow we'll have a new home," she whispered. That night, though light rain pattered softly against the roof, the heart of the single mother shone brighter than ever. A new door, a new opportunity awaited them just ahead.
Nghe đến đây, đôi mắt Huyền cay xè, giọng cô nghẹn lại. Cháu không biết nói gì nữa. Để cảm ơn chú. Bao ngày nay, cháu chỉ mong một chỗ ổn định để con bé được yên ổn. Chú cười hiền hậu, xoa đầu bé Maya. Mẹ con sống tốt, giúp đỡ người khác thế này, trời sẽ thương thôi. Chú về nghỉ trước, mai chú quay lại đón. Huyền dẫn chú Tư ra tận lối nhỏ. Huyền dắt Maya trở về căn nhà tạm. Tuy mái nhà vẫn rột nát, vách nứt lở loét, nhưng trong tim Huyền lúc này đã sáng lên một hy vọng mới. Maya ơi, có lẽ mai mẹ con mình sẽ có một mái nhà mới con ạ. Đêm ấy, dù trời mưa lất phất ngoài hiên, nhưng trong căn nhà nhỏ bé ấy, trái tim người mẹ đơn thân lại rực sáng hơn bao giờ hết. Một cánh cửa mới, một cơ hội mới đang chờ mẹ con cô ở phía trước.